Come on, man.
Hey guys.
It's just a pineapple.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Here at the Swamp, getting ready to beat LSU. Y'all tune in to Rule Number 1 podcast on Monday.
Yeah, yes it is. We're back again, another Monday, another episode of the Rule 1 podcast. I'm really excited about this. We mentioned it a little bit last week about our guest star partner.
Yeah, we're super excited. You know, I say that every episode,
Yeah.
but at this point, you know, every single week it feels like we have something new turn the corner, whether
Absolutely.
it's another new stepping stone. But this week we have a very cool special guest, and we mentioned it last week, is we have Mavric, which he is also going to be our new quote unquote tech guy. If you've seen like Joe Rogan's podcast, Jamie, so what he's going to do is he's going to monitor our cameras. He's going to do a lot of behind the scenes work. And he's going to have a mic every episode. So whenever we have a question or if we have, you know, a certain video or whatever we want to look up, we'll have a monitor up here. And he's going to play that for y'all and answer, you know, some fun fact questions. So without further ado, welcome in, Maverick.
Mav!
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. Great to be here.
Yeah. Now look into your mic when you're speaking to us. Yeah, there we go. Now we're back on track. I'm so excited about this, Mav. You know, me and you met about 2 months ago. You're going to, you know, help us grow. And, you know, you've got some ideas to help us grow on socials. You got some ideas to help us grow, you know, with just things in general, exponential growth, whether it be in the studio, whatever. I'm so excited to bring you on as a part of the Rule 1 team. I know you're going to help us out a lot. Before we get into the show, guys, please remember to keep hitting that follow and like and subscribe button. It helps boost us in the algorithms, helps us, you know, keep doing what we're doing. And I love it. And you love us, so hit that button. Anyways, back to the show. Mav, every episode we ask our guest right off the top, what is your number one rule to live by?
Yeah, man. I put in a lot of thought about this question. And I think it's a great question that you guys have that you ask on the podcast. It's changed throughout my life. It'll probably change when I'm older, but you know, at the moment that I'm in right now, I would say I call it emotional intelligence. Being aware of that is the number one rule that I live by. And kind of what that means for me is like you have your typical IQ, intelligence, but being emotionally intelligent is like, you know, you're aware of how you handle things when things go wrong. Are you freaking out? Are you losing it? And just learning that over time is really what I would see as my number one rule. I could get up here and preach about, you know, you should do this. There's great wisdom. But I think that the one that I actually live by would be emotional intelligence. And for me, that looks like, you know, a cool, like, level head. And I give this example of my dad. And I think this is actually, you know, probably the worst part about growing up is seeing the faults in your parents. Mm-hmm. Because you change from, you know, they're bigger than life. And then as you continue to grow older, well, when you're in high school, you know, me and my mom would bump heads all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, you're a teen, whatever. But as you grow into that young adult, you've seen the world differently. You have your own experiences passed from, you know, being in their house, live on your own. So my dad, great guy. I'm blessed with great parents. But my dad gets angry sometimes. And, you know, sometimes to justify whatever. And if it was just me and him, I probably wouldn't even say anything. But, you know, when we're out in public, I'm always aware of, you know, people are watching, people know you. So how you handle yourself is big, and that's part of that emotional intelligence. So, like, you know, we were setting up for the chocolate barn, which is our business, and he was throwing fence posts because we dug a hole and we just started. It's hot, and we hit the water line underneath, which we have no control over. So for me, I'm like, okay, you know, we relocate the hole 6 inches. Yeah, the fence is a little crooked, or we pull it up, you know, whatever. But but for him, like that just sent him through a loop. And it's things like that growing up, like, that's a small detail, but it's little things that, you know, create this emotional intelligence. Yeah, I mean, it took me 10 years to get to where I'm at now. I was, you know, growing through high school, through college. Like I'm not to the point where I am today, but just being aware of it helps me really, really progress where I want to be and see the future that I want to attain.
Yeah. You know, the foundation of a person is built through their past experiences. You know, through your core, you're built through your stories, is what I like to think.
Yeah.
And, you know, taking in everything, whether that be, you know, how your dad reacts to a fence post and having the emotional awareness and the mental awareness to, you know, say, I'm never going to act like that for such a small problem. That's good. Being able to reflect upon past experiences like that only builds you into a better person.
Right.
Moving forward, I feel like I have a good sense of that too. You know, I have a good sense of self-awareness. I know when I'm pissed off. I know when I'm sad. I know whatever. And I know when to make what kind of decisions, when I'm in what kind of moods. You know what I'm saying? You follow where I'm going?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I'm bringing you on, or we're bringing you on to this show, because that answer right there about emotional awareness and, you know, an intellectual response like that, you're bringing a whole new ball game here to us. You're bringing a whole new, you know, level of professional with us.
Yeah. And, you know, you're absolutely right. You do go through experiences, and that's how your future kind of shapes. You know, you can learn about things, but you can really only testify to what you've been through. But something that I did, and I'm blessed to have two loving, caring parents, and my parents are older. My mom's 63 and my dad's 54. And there's pros and cons to having older versus younger parents, but the benefit that I had the most is being able to leverage their experiences and use them as my own. So I don't have to go through that. And I'll relate it to more of a common theme, is like the golf pro that spent 40 years, you know, grinding it out, going every day to the course, learning what works, what doesn't work. Well, now you can hop on YouTube and watch a 20-minute video and learn everything he learned in those 40 years. You know, and you still got to go out there and do it and grind. It's not easy, but what I'm saying, you can use those to leverage yourself, to put yourself in a better position to be able to handle what comes at you.
Definitely. I, you know, kind of to go back to what you were saying whenever it comes to, you know, you having great parents and being able to handle your emotions and being able to learn from your parents. You know, a big thing in my life, you know, my dad passed away when I was 12. And so he gave me the opportunity to see, you know, in my opinion, he was the most perfect dad in the whole entire world. And so he gave me 12 years to be able to see that. But at the same time, I'm a big person on, you know, whatever you go through in life makes you into the person you are today. And so kind of to go with what you were saying about trying to be emotionally aware. And I feel like in my life, I've had to overcome a lot of things in terms of my emotions, because society tells you as a man is you need to hold it in and you need to, you know, bottle it up. You don't, you know, nobody needs to know when you're sad. Nobody needs to know when you're angry. You know, you just got to be a quote unquote man. And so I feel like being the emotionally, what was the word again? Emotionally what?
I call it emotional intelligence. There's probably a better term for it. That's just what I know.
No, definitely. Yeah, with emotional intelligence, I feel like society, it's kind of like lets men be like, okay, bottle it up, and if you have a blowout, you have a blowout. You're a man. Like, it's okay. Like, we get it. Like, you know, do your thing. And I feel like a big thing with being emotional intelligent is you have to be able to understand your emotions as a man and be able to express yourself sometimes. And I'm not saying you need to go cry out in public or whatever, but it's a big problem nowadays, I feel like, is because the whole world just teaches men to just, you know, you got to be a quote unquote man. There's no, you know, empathy, there's no whatever. And you just kind of got to, you know, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep on going. And so I like that because it gives an insight into, you know, the future of, hey, maybe this could be the next generation of a man, where it's like, I can be aware of my emotions right now. I know what I'm going through. I can think about it before I react. And I feel like a lot of times nowadays there's blowouts because, that's 6 years of a man holding something in, and it's just one trigger and it's boom, he's pissed,
Right.
And I really like that because it's definitely a big thing that I wish more people understood. Instead of acting emotionally, understand your emotions and go through it more in a logical way.
Yeah. And there was a quote that I heard. It was trying to think that way I don't misquote it. It was hard times create strong men.
Yeah.
Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And it's that cycle, but you're absolutely right. The life of a young man growing up is hard. It's even harder without a father. I'm sorry to hear that, man. But yeah, it's a struggle because, you look at the job sector, we're doing all the labor. We're doing the dirty work. Not that females can't, absolutely you can, but
They choose not to.
Right. It's just not something.
It's not a flattering field for them.
There's not a woman out there on the oil rig, changing pipes.
Yeah.
There can be.
There can be, but they're not going to choose.
It's
to be out
not
there.
sought after.
And I don't blame them. I don't want to be out there changing the oil rig pipes. But it's just it's not a glorious life by no means. But yeah, it helps me process how to handle things. Like I was in a relationship, and if we ever got into an argument or something, I usually wouldn't even respond. I just listen, and then I would take not a long time, but maybe 10 minutes to process. Okay, what is she saying? What does she mean? What does she want me to do? And then, okay, how do I feel? How do I respond? And then I'm ready to, okay, let's talk.
Yeah. You're a very formulated person.
Right. If you're not, then you're going to say things that you don't mean. It's going to blow up. Or, you also can't be the kind of person that shuts down for a week. Right. I'm not dodging your calls for 2 months. You don't hear, you know what I mean? It's a balance. And it helps me out in business too. I'll get super excited, and there's all kinds of emotions. So I'll get excited about things, about businesses. I have huge goals, but I'll take time to adjust. I'll be okay, self-reflect. Is this something I can do? Is this something that is worth my time? Or am I just excited about it?
Now, was this thought process behind, sounds like you make this behind every decision, whatever comes at you. Was this instilled in you at a young age? Did you develop this yourself, or did your parents kind of?
Yeah. So this is kind of that nature versus nurture question, and I think that a lot of it, the emotional part, I developed on my own.
Okay.
I was not this way in high school. I was not this much in college. I started paying attention to it when I was 15, but I didn't know how to change it. Mm-hmm. I just knew I'm still up at night, thinking about that cringy thing I said in sixth grade. It's like that. So no, I really, after college is really when I started to piece it together, what it means. Mm-hmm. And then, researching it too, watching YouTube videos, things like that, just on mental health, fitness, all these things that just boost your
dopamine.
Just boost your mental ability to be productive, to be active.
Yeah. We've talked about this topic a couple of times tonight so far, the topic of mental health with men. There's a society push nowadays that is opening up said topic to talk about. It's becoming more common for men to talk about their problems. There was a UFC fighter not too long ago, Patty, the Batty.
Patty the Batty.
Yeah, won a big fight and like snatched the interviewee's microphone and gave a spew and a plead for people to start listening about mental health and everything. And I feel like moving forward, I feel like society is becoming more open to the fact that you can talk as a man to people about your problems. But where I think the problem underlines for every man being able to do it is society and the culture that they're in. We've grown up here in, kind of rural country, backwoods, kind of area where a man doesn't talk about his problems. He swallows his whatever, takes his medicine, as they'd say it, and goes on about his day. That might not be the case for somebody growing up in LA, where it's encouraged for young men to, hey, what are you struggling with? How can we help you? You know what I'm saying? That kind of society impact. Where do you think, or how do you think, moving forward in cultural areas like this, you approach the idea of having men being able to talk about their
So
feelings?
I'm glad you asked me that. I'm a bit on the fence for both sides. So I actually appreciate the men that hold it together. They're that strong hand. And I think you should be.
Yes.
You should,
100%.
as a man,
Agreed.
you should not be going home crying to your wife every night. Now, I mean, if you got some, like you got cancer, or she's got cancer, whatever, something crazy, yeah, of course. But I would say as a young man growing up, the best thing you can do is have a mentor. A mentor who's at least 10 years older than you, and someone that you can trust with, those deep secrets, those dark feelings, and that you can really
rely on.
Yeah, you can just put it all on them and know that they have your best intentions. You can go to your parents if you have a good relationship with them. I never went to my parents for, any of my problems or anything that I struggled with. I had a mentor, and, you can have multiple mentors. I would encourage people to have more than one. But yeah, I like the guys that can hold it together, but they need the debrief too. And I use the term debrief because I have a buddy he's a detective, and he said, after something violent happens, murder, whatever, the group of guys that work the case will come together the next day and they'll debrief.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about it. And I think that helps so much because it just, you're not holding in those feelings alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, with I had a point. What was the name of the guy that Cade said last week that he wanted at his table, that he was like the motivational speaker?
David Goggins.
Yeah, David Goggins. So I seen a quote by him, and it was an interview, and this guy was basically like, man, you don't understand what I'm going through, like you don't get it. And he basically said, he was like, shut up. Like, he was like, I understand where you're going through. And he goes, the problem is, he goes, and nowadays, is you can literally throw a rock to somebody that understands what you're going through. But the thing is, everybody hides it and everybody holds it in. And so basically, he's a big person on pick yourself up by your bootstraps. But at the same time, like, I agree with that. Like, you can't have this quote unquote self-pity in a way. And so you can't overcome yourself with, I've got it so bad. I got to go work, 80 hours this week and I don't make enough money, or this and that, yada, yada, yada. I don't have a girlfriend, I don't have kids yet. I don't have the car that I want. And so I feel like a lot of times with men is they do quote unquote hold it in and be a man, but they're so self-consumed and depressed because of the fact that they just have this, oh, well, why haven't I got there yet? Well, it's because it takes a point where you have to be like, you know what? This is my circumstance. This is where I'm at right now. I do have to pick myself up by my bootstraps. I do have to pick myself up, and I've got to do everything I can to get out of the situation or do everything I can to strive for where I want to be. And I feel like a lot of times men just get in this lull of it is comfortable and I want everybody to know I'm hurting, but I'm being a man because I'm not telling anybody, but everybody on the outside can tell, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
And, it goes to the stereotypical deal where, the 50-year-old guy that works his 9 to 5 that's depressed, that has to go home to his wife that's, arguing with him all the time. And it goes back to that scene. And so I feel like it's a big problem nowadays that we're in this. And if we can figure out a way to be like, you know what, these are my circumstances, and we got to make a step to go that way and not be self-consumed with your circumstances and try to better yourself in them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it has. Man, we have spent 22 minutes so far reflecting upon your answer for what your number one rule to live by is. I love the topic. It's definitely a hot one.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, moving forward, there needs to be strong men in society. Always. We want to have a strong society. But there's got to be a way where you can balance the strong and all the stuff, like you said, debrief. There's got to be a way or a cultural approach that debriefing is okay. Because there's still so many people and so many men out there that debriefing is just not an option for them.
Yeah, you're right. They don't have those groups formed around them. I heard this quote. It was, think about stress as a glass of water. And if you pick it up, like you're holding on to the stress, the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it gets. So if you just set it down,
just release it.
Dump it out.
Right. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever analogy. I get it.
But the people just hold on to it. They don't ever think to like, okay, set it down, let me take a step back and see how to change, approach,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times too, it just, there's a lot of things that this world tells you as well. That is, if you're sad, go do this. If you're not feeling it, go do that or whatever. And I know, we're on 23 minutes of this, but I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about too. Yeah. And so we had a whole
3 hours.
I was about to say, we had a whole different outline, but I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about, and I'm kind of rolling with it a little bit if you're good with it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Absolutely.
And, but basically this whole society basically says, there's things out there that will make you happy. And in my opinion, just like, cause I've been there, I've tried, I'm still in there in a degree. And I've gone for the things that, just society says, oh, well, if you had money, you can do that. And so, I've had points in my life where I've had significant amounts of money that I can go do a lot of things that I want to do. And I blew through it. And at the end of the day, it left me unhappy. And then it gets to the point where it's like, oh, well, you just need to go out with your friends and get hammered and, go have a good time. Well, the next day I wake up feeling guilty. And so it comes to a point where it's like you have to be able to figure out how the best way you handle things. And relying on one specific thing or one specific act or person or whatever is, I feel like a lot of times just going to leave you empty. Like, John O'Neill spoke about in his episode that Tom Brady, I think he won, it was his 4th or 5th Super Bowl. And in a post-game interview, he was like, we're so excited, whatever, this and that. Well, they interviewed him like 2 or 3 days after. And he goes, man, it's crazy because I've won 4 Super Bowls or 5 Super Bowls, however many it was. And he goes, but God, there's got to be something more. It's like this guy's on the pinnacle of, greatness and an athletic career, like, MVP after MVP, Super Bowl after Super Bowl. But he says, God, there got to be something more, which is, in my personal beliefs, I'm a Christian. I believe, that helps me along my way. But it was just funny to me that it's like there's so many things out there that the whole world will just say this will make you happy, but it just leaves you empty again and again and again.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I also am a Christian. I think that your faith, your time with God fills that void. Because that's the only way you're going to be joyful. You could be happy, but to have true joy is to know Christ, to know God, and spend time with Him. That's something I've been working on more lately. I heard a YouTube video that was I listen to inspirational quotes sometimes, and it said a day spent without God, without spending time with God, a day spent without God, I don't care if it's the best day you ever had, was a day wasted. And that just, I stopped. I was like, it's so true, because we're here for a finite time. That's what really matters. But yeah, money is not everything. I would say from a business perspective that if you could make $10,000 a month, your life would change, and that's the biggest change. Going from 10 to 20 isn't as big as going from whatever you're making now to 10. And that's one of my closest goals, is to try to get to 10,000 a month. And that's when your real life starts to change for better. But I've never been the person that wants $1 million a year. Because if you're making $1 million a year, unless you're a YouTuber, you have some new money, but you're solving $1 million a year problems.
Yeah.
That's a lot of headache. And a lot of people don't understand when they see a business, they don't know the behind the scenes.
Yes, agreed.
Like we do the Strawberry Festival, and I'll get into my background here in a second, but it runs for 11 days. It takes 2 months of work to run those 11 days.
Oh, I understand. I have an apparel brand here that I manage. Now we're out of Central Florida in Barton. We've talked about working the Strawberry Festival, but we've never done it because the fact that it's 12 days long, the amount of planning and time and, commitment it takes from employees to get to that festival and stay, focused at said festival and not go do, dumb stuff and goof off.
Yeah.
It's hard. So I get it. I definitely get it. I wanted to get into that a little bit too. How old were you when you started those? You tell the people what they are, by the way.
Sure. So I got to go back, and I give all the credit to my parents because it's really their business. I'm to the age now where I've started to take over. But so my mom created the company in 2005. It's called Mavric Chocolate Bar, and they named it after me. It's a concession stand at the Florida Strawberry Festival. We've done other shows in the past, but they're not really. We used to do the state fair, smaller shows too, but they're just not really either.
Not the cash cow.
They're not our crowd, or they're not worth our time. So we started in 2005. I was 7 years old. My picture's still on the barn today on the menu. Terrible photo, but yeah. So I was 7 years old. So I grew up in that business environment. And so this was our 18th year doing the Strawberry Festival. We now have 3 locations and a 4th business there. So the Chocolate Barn is the original, and we sold a number of different items over the years. But finally, I've convinced my parents to downscale the menu, simplify. Try to tell them all the time. Man, we used to do like chocolate dipped cherries and peanut butter Ritz crackers dipped in chocolate. Everything we do is dipped in chocolate. So
sounds like my kind of place.
So now we have 4 products. We do chocolate dipped strawberries, and we do a variety of those, so you can order them different ways. Chocolate dipped bacon, so it's set up like a nacho tray. We use thick applewood smoked bacon, and then on the side is the chocolate. And sometimes we catch slack for that because they're like, "Oh, it's not already dipped." Well, no, we tried it like that, and what happens is that chocolate gets hard and the bacon gets cold, so it becomes greasy. It's just not good.
Yeah.
So we cook the bacon there on site in skillets, and we serve it warm, both the chocolate and the bacon.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you just dip it yourself. We do chocolate dip Rice Krispie treats, And then those are good for kids.
Yeah, they are. I had a couple of those this year.
Or if somebody, I don't know why you come to the festival if you're allergic to strawberries, but we get a couple. And they're good for them, So I like them too. I'll snack on them. But our other product is frozen chocolate dipped bananas.
Oh, that sounds good.
And that's, that's our 4 product lines. And then we also sell drinks. But so that's the Chocolate Barn to date. My mom opened up her own probably 4 years ago now. It's in a different location at the festival. This is a permanent building. The Chocolate Barn is a concession stand, so we drive it home or back to my parents' house in Plant City. But the Chocolate Strawberry Express is her and a business partner's business. They went in half on that, and they are located. Do you know where the Make Your Own Strawberry Shortcake is?
Yeah, it's the world famous. Yeah.
Right. So they're diagonal from them.
Good spot.
Yeah, it's a great spot. No, the shortcake people do so much business. But, yeah, we have that one. They sell strawberries and Rice Krispie treats as well. They don't do bananas or bacon. So that's all they do. They have 2 products. And then we have a fudge booth. It's called Sweet Treat Lane.
Tried that one too this year.
With my parents and our other different business partner. And we sell fudge, cupcakes, brownies, cake pops. And then the one that's interesting, to me at least, because the story's kind of cool, is we do seat cushion rentals during the concerts. So it's called Bun Buddies. And
that's a great name, by the way.
Right. So when I was young, I think I was 13, and my dad, or our whole family went, but my dad mainly took us to a, what's it called? One of those crash derbies. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so this is where I get my entrepreneurship from, is my mom.
It's in the genes.
Yeah, it's baked in. So me and my dad are there. Of course, I'm 13, so I give my mom slack about it. I'm like, Mom, I was a kid. So we go there. We're excited to see the show, right? We come, we have a good time. Well, there's a guy, before we even get inside, there's a guy renting seat cushion rentals at the show that we're going to. So, in me and my dad's head, we're invested in the show. Like, we're here to have a great time, see what's going to happen. Never been to one before. My mom, the whole time, wheel spinning. How does this guy do this? What does he do? Where does he order from? So she's sitting there asking him questions for like 15 minutes. Me and my dad just left. We're like, all right, see you. She's a talker, but so she's there asking the guy questions. She's like, how do I make this happen? Where do you order from? This and that. So she's figuring it all out. Well, and then she goes home. She nose on it, thinks about it, and then 2 years later, we create one to run at the festival.
And now that's another cash cow. Because I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Yeah. What you spoke about earlier is issues with like staffing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's hard for us because we have to figure out, because there's a lot of gates. So it takes a mass amount of people to collect seat cushion rental. The first year we lost, I don't know how many. We probably lost $1,000 in seat cushions.
Wow.
Which might not sound but we only bought like 2,500. So
over half.
Yeah. But yeah, you just, businesses like that, you have to let people figure out what you do, who you are. And it's hard to start. Mm-hmm. But once you're there for 3 years, you get a reputation, they know who you are, and it's much easier. They kind of know the ins and outs. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You went to Warner and graduated with a business degree, right?
I did. So I went to Durant back in Plant City, and from there I went to Warner. Mm-hmm. I squeezed 4 years into 5 at Warner. I was supposed to graduate in 2020, but graduated in 2021. But but yeah, I got a business management degree, and then after that, I jumped in. I got looped into insurance. I was an insurance adjuster. So throughout high school, I wanted to go to the Navy. It was at least the military, but mainly the Navy is what I was looking for. And all through high school, that was my goal. And then in college, so I was still like, yeah, like I think that's what I want to do. And even like senior year, I was like, yeah, still want to go to the Navy, but I never put any time into it. I never really invested into it. I went and talked to like one recruiter over the 6 years that I was interested. I was like, all right, well, I'm out of shape. I have, at that time, I didn't really care about health. I was like, I have no intentions of getting into shape. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? And then it was literally like 2 weeks after I graduated college. My dad's like, hey, my dad's a firefighter. He's like, hey, I got a firefighter buddy. He's a public adjuster. And he was doing it part-time, while he was a captain in the Polk County Fire Rescue. And he's like, he was making like, I don't know, $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this and that. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. Yeah. And then little what I knew, like 2-3 weeks later, I'm invested in a course, getting my license, and got looped into that for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Nice. It's crazy how many hands he has.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Maverick was telling me a little bit before we got started. Actually tonight is the first night I officially met Maverick and got to be able, and had a little bit of time to get to know him. I've heard a ton about him through Brian, but it sounds like he's had a lot of hands on a lot of different things to be able to have all different kinds of life experiences. But what I want to know is, I know y'all kind of met, whether y'all had mutual friends or whatever, and Brian told me about them. But, you wanting to be part of this deal with the podcast and kind of run some of the tech side of it. What part of that interests you? There's so much behind, videography and, photography and, audio and everything. What part of that interests you? And, where do you see yourself? Like, how do you think you can help us do this?
Yeah, great questions. I didn't know I was coming to an interview today.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I said this, I was like, this sounds like we're actually interviewing him right now.
Pass or fail. No, so I actually, and this is something else I'd recommend to any business-minded people out there is, if you can find something that you enjoy and figure out a way to make money doing it, do it.
Yep.
If you can't, do something you're good at, and then set aside time to work on either what you want to accomplish or your passions. Mm-hmm. And to answer your question, I started taking TV production in 7th grade.
I've heard this story, by the way.
Yeah, I took it in 7th grade. I think it was like a rotation. They let you try out all the different classes. Ended up liking it. I just, we would go out. We had little camcorders. We'd film videos and then come back and edit them. And it's 6th, 7th grade. Like, what do you expect? Mm-hmm. We weren't doing no production. Yeah. But our school had like a TV morning show that we would put videos on. So we go out and film those, and that was like our class. And I don't know. I enjoyed doing that, and I took it in high school, so I just kept rolling with it. Ended up getting certified in Adobe Premiere. So I was helping film the morning show. In high school, we had a lot more serious TV production. Mm-hmm. So we were creating storyboards. We were going out filming all day. Editing videos for 3-4 class periods, 2-week turnarounds on different projects working on. So yeah, I've had a passion for that kind of stuff. And I kind of just let it slide because Warner didn't offer it.
What do you mean?
Warner didn't have any type of, when I started, they didn't have any type of TV production or video editing, anything like that. I believe they do now. I think it was
That's what I graduated with.
I think it was my sophomore, junior year at Warner. They opened up that program. I could be mistaken, but when I enrolled, I asked, and they said, no, we don't have anything like that.
I think somebody misinformed you because they've had a communications department for a while.
I know, but
I know they did communications, but I don't think they did like TV production.
Okay.
I was about to say, that's what I was saying. I don't think the communication goes, and I could be wrong. I mean, you would know better than me, but did y'all take any specific like TV production, video editing style like stuff?
I had like probably 3 or 4 courses designed for that. I had like TV, it wasn't called TV production. It was called, was it studio production?
Okay.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then I had like Adobe, like a film editing class, like 1 and 2. And then I had digital photography 1 and 2.
Gotcha.
All
And those-
kinds of stuff.
Those
Yeah.
could have been classes that
They
they
were
also added
They
in.
were added, yeah.
So they could have had the traditional communication degree, just hadn't had the videography or video.
Yeah, and I think
side.
at the time when I was enrolling, they didn't have, at least to that extent, set up. So I just, in my mind, I just kind of
Cut it off.
I'd never followed up. I never even thought about asking again until I found out like junior year they were doing all that stuff. I was like, it's too late now. I'm not a
It's
double,
never too late,
not
man.
a double major.
What do you mean?
No,
I walked in and
it's too late to do college.
I walked in the middle of my sophomore year and said, "Man, you're a cool professor. Man, this is a cool class. All right, I'm changing."
It is a cool class, but no, I have a passion for it, but it's not something that I want to. You know, I know I'm not the best. I don't want to be the best. I just enjoy doing it as a hobby or spending my free time on it. But it's interesting to me to see, like, you know, the world's shifting. Like, this is what it's going to. So to help you guys, I would do some business perspective as well. Like I mentioned, you know, getting us set up on Microsoft Teams and incorporating like one source of communication for all 3 of us and future guests on the show or business deals, whatever we do. But also, you know, helping you guys out, taking time to come out here, film. That way it's less on you, editing videos. Me and Brian, Brian's still going to do the role for a while. I got to take that refresher course. It's been a few years, but yeah, I'm interested, and it's funny. I don't even know how we.
I don't either. I really don't either.
I don't even know how we got soaked up together, but it was like, you know, Brian was telling me about this podcast. I'm like, podcast, okay. And then I was listening to him, and he was like, yeah, you know, I'm doing all the editing, this and that. I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. It's like, okay, well, and then he was telling me more about it. I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that. Or, you know, I have this idea. Let me see if I can help you. And I go back to, like, you know, I'm a people person, so I like helping people. I don't like talking on the phone with people, so I didn't like insurance. But, you know, I like to help those people around me, and I'm the kind of person that I want to see everybody succeed. It's my phone.
No,
You're fine.
You're fine.
I was trying to figure out. I was like, what is that?
Continue. You like helping people succeed.
Yeah, so it's there's one of my best friends. He would always pose this question, like, you know, hey, if I won the lottery, man, you know, what I'd do is I'd call you to see if you could come give me gas. I'd be broke down on the side of the road, and if you came, then I'd give you money. You know,
That's smart.
it is, and he's a solid dude. But for me, I would rather just invest in you because I'm not calling you out there to see if you're going to follow through or not. If we're tight, if we're close, I'm taking care of you. Either I'm bringing you with me if I make it. We're all making it. But it's also that men need purpose. So I don't think I would just give them money. I think, I'd set aside $50,000 a year, but they're still going to work. They're still going to have purpose in their life. I don't want them just to lounge around, because that's when you get depressed. That's when you stop working on yourself.
It goes back to exactly what you were saying. Good times equal like weak times or whatever. You know the saying, but that you referred to earlier. But
so does he have the job? You mean you just interviewed him right here? You asked him a question.
I feel like that was a terrible answer to your question.
He has the job in my book.
Yeah, no, we definitely like. I definitely like Maverick. I mean, this is the first time we've met, like I said, and I've just enjoyed. I mean, the last 2.5 hours, and 45 on the show has showed me a lot more too. So I'm tickled to death to have Maverick on. Maverick, we have these snap questions where we kind of ask you, and it gets to know you as a person, which I feel, this episode we've got a really good understanding. But this will also kind of help. This is almost like a live interview with me and Maverick, because I haven't met him before, and so I'm feeling him out and trying to I'm a big person on first impressions, and he's doing pretty good.
It's close.
But with these snap questions, it gets to know us, gets to know you more as a person, gets to know how you think, which you've done a really good job of showing that. But, we ask this question every week. If you could have 3 people out to dinner, where would you go? They could be dead or alive. Where would you go? And who would those people be?
Yeah, so it's funny. Obviously I've watched other episodes, so I kind of knew this question was coming. A lot of people answer it as someone motivational, someone they'd like to learn from, to interest themselves with. And I think that's the point. I'm not going to be the one, like, that would be the worst dinner ever for me, because I would not want to be in the restaurant. I want to be where they're respective at. Like Kobe Bryant would probably be one, because I love his mindset. But I would not want to be at that dinner. I would want to be on the court, or at his house,
or in the weight room, or
learning, whatever he has to teach me. And I think that's the principle behind the question that you're asking. Is, what is it that you want to do with that hour of time? Or who would you want to spend that hour with? And it's a great question, but Kobe Bryant would be one, because I love his mentality. I wish I was that determined,
strong-willed.
Yes,
the Mamba mentality. Yeah.
Right. I'm the laziest person you'll ever meet.
I hope not.
Hard worker.
All right, he's done.
I work hard.
He's done. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I work hard, but when it's like doing personal stuff, I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a good question, though.
Number two.
Theo Vaughn.
Okay.
That's a good one.
I got it. Like, a lot of people look at him and just think like, oh, he's hilarious. And he is. I laugh at him all the time. But the way he does things, I don't know if people see this. Maybe it's just me. Someone will say a common phrase, and that he knows that phrase. But he'll describe it in a way that doesn't make sense
at all. But it makes all the sense.
But it's genius level. Like, I don't know if it's marketing, but like, he'll say, like, you'll say raccoon, and he'll say,
he'll say like coonra,
them trash,
and he'll go viral.
Oh, you mean them trash pandas?
Yeah.
It's like, what he's talking about. That he knows, but he understands that element so well that he knows how to flip it to make it funny. And that blows my mind that he can do it so well. Or he's actually just that slow.
Funny. Yeah, man.
Oh no, I don't think he's that slow at all. I think he's actually extremely
I
intelligent.
think it's an act. Yeah.
I'm a big Theo Vaughn guy. Brian's a big Joe Rogan guy, which I mean, obviously we intersect. We both like both of them. But I really like with Theo is a lot of people look at him and he's like, oh, he's a dumbass, or he's
Right.
He's a goofball, always trying to make a joke. And if you really if you dive in, kind of like what you were saying, he's very intellectual. Like the way he can picture things and the way he can describe them is very like, it's just what society says is like normal. He takes that, throws in the trash, and comes up with his whole new deal. And if you listen to some of his clips or videos or whatever, where he gets into like deep stuff, whenever he's actually like being serious, the guy is like, he's very big on like emotional, and he's like, man, sometimes like this happens, and I feel for you and I hurt for you or whatever. And like you see in some of these clips where he's like, Theo's a real person. Like he's not just a jokester, he's not just a comedian, and he's hit on some of these big, topics, kind of like we talked about at the beginning of this episode. And I appreciate him more as a comedian and as a person whenever he can be vulnerable in a way, kind of like what we were saying. And be vulnerable in a way and discuss some of these things with intellectual, backing or whatever, rather than you don't have to laugh your butt off every time because he describes a raccoon as a garbage panda or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it shows him as a person. But anyway, so there's my little Theo spill. Sorry.
Yeah,
I really like Theo.
Number 3.
You're absolutely right.
Number 3.
Number 3 is actually a new YouTuber that I've been watching.
Okay.
Her name is Cody Sanchez. I don't know if you ever heard of her.
Nope.
I feel like I have.
Check her out sometime. So her whole spiel is on her YouTube channel is she buys boring businesses. And she shows you how easy it is to go out there and make money at doing something. It's not sexy. She buys coin laundromats, upscales them, profits every year. She does the same thing with vending machines, all these kind of like little businesses that you don't think about that you pass every day. And that's how she makes money. So
ice machines is a big one too.
Yeah. Bulk ice. She would be my third guest because that's kind of how I see myself moving towards. Those are the kind of investments that I want to. I'm not a big stock portfolio guy. I've never gotten into day trading. Like I just don't know enough about it. I'd like to learn more, but
I'll have to hook you up with Brett.
Yeah, Brett would be great. I watched his episode too. But yeah, it just like the small businesses that you don't see are the ones that really make you money quietly. And it's funny you brought Brett up because I agree with Brett. His systematic savings plan is a great plan to have. The only issue that I see in that plan, and I only watched the episode, I don't know the guy. He's a great guy. The only issue is, when do you need your money? When do you need the most amount of money you're going to spend? It's not in your 60s and 70s. It's in your 30s when you're married, 2 kids, trying to buy a house, trying to afford college, So the financial system savings plan is a great plan to have money to save for retirement but when you're 70 years old, you don't have the mobility you did when you're 30.
Right.
Like I want to have money to go enjoy life now. Like I want to go, I'm not going to be traveling when I'm 80.
Yeah.
I'm traveling when I'm 40, when I can actually do things to enjoy it.
Right.
So owning like small businesses like that is really, I think, an additional way to get some capital, get some cash flow, to create some financial freedom for yourself. And Brett's plan is great. Like you should absolutely do that.
It's safe.
I'll probably talk to him soon because, I could use a financial advisor as well. But in the meantime, people are trying to make it out of that daily grind. And it's a grind. You're going to have to work extra, like long hours to make it out of that. But, it's these little things that you can do to really set yourself up and use that platform to just keep leaping to the next level. That's
definitely a unique 3, and that's definitely the most elaborate, explanations behind guests that we've gotten.
I love it though.
Yeah, it's very in depth. He has rhyme to the reason.
Yeah.
A reason to the rhyme, whatever you want to say.
I'm not just this crazy.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's so good.
And that's
we nailed it.
Whenever I thought of this question, I talked to Brian. I said, I really think this would be a good question to ask. It's a whole new perspective, whatever. An answer like that is what I expect, honestly.
Yes, 100 every time.
I expect an answer with 3 people, and I want you to explain why. I want, and it gets to know exactly how you explain it. It gets to know you as a person. It gets to know how you think, how you see the world, how you handle situations. And I feel like this is perfect because this interview is going really well right now.
I need a raise.
There you go.
I'm glad you just said that because that leads us to our next question. If we gave you $100,000 right now,
deal.
Right now,
that's his new salary.
Right, what would you do with it?
So $100,000, unfortunately, is not that much money.
Nope.
I was making altogether in the insurance field, car benefits, everything wrapped up. I was making about 65 to 70, somewhere in there. If I had $100,000 in my pocket today, I would honestly go invest in one of those small businesses that I had talked about.
Yeah.
I would probably still have to take a loan out.
Yeah.
Because they're not cheap. But the rate of return, the investment, you make your money back in 3 years.
Very true.
Yeah.
3 to 5 years. It just makes sense. I'm not putting it in the bank where it's going to sit there and make me a penny every quarter. It's just, that's a bad way to use your money. Now, if you want to store it in the bank, sure, but don't expect it to grow. I'd rather have my money working for me, but I'm not the kind of guy that has passive income either, like completely passive, that is. I'm not going to give money to an investment banker to invest for me. I could. I might later down the road, but right now, I'd rather have some sweat equity in that business as well to really know, this is mine.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to take care of. So, yeah, I would use that $100,000 to invest back into a business that is profitable.
Nice.
That's good.
That's a good question.
Or a boat.
Yeah, or
That's the Floridian coming out.
Yeah.
That is the Floridian coming out.
I definitely, I love all the points that you've made, and I told Brian I'd quit saying that, but I do love the points that you've made. With when it comes to the not necessarily safe way to do things, how you talked about how Brett, he's long-term future retirement. There's so many good points in terms of handling your money, and it's like, okay, do I do this when I get older, or can I figure out a way and do something a little risky and maybe make the money and be able to enjoy it while I'm still young? Whenever we're young, we do so many things, and we have this big reputation that we want to uphold, or some people do. To wrap things up, Mavric, if you were to pass away tomorrow, what do you want people to remember you by?
That's a great question. And just to touch on a point real fast before I answer that, I would encourage people to start writing things down.
Yes.
I have a comp book that I write in. I write every business idea that I have. I write it down.
Me too. It's my little diary.
I don't care if it's the dumbest idea I've ever had. I don't care if it's never going to make money, not feasible. I shoot for the stars, man. Write all your goals down. Your long-term, your short-term, keep keep grinding on what you want to work on. There's one I'll share if any of you viewers want to use it. Cut me in 1% for the idea.
There you go.
I had an idea once that the industry today is moving towards an idealistic market. Mm-hmm. So people are paying or using ideas more than they are products. For example, like Uber.
Yeah.
I would say Uber's more of an idea than it is a product,
Oh, yeah. It's a whole concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Concepts. I was thinking about creating a website of just people that have concepts, ideas, can upload them, and then investors or whoever, business owners, whoever you are, you can log onto that website and you can pay those people for those ideas. Because I don't know, I've had tons of like restaurant ideas. I don't know where to go to pitch these ideas to people. Like I'm not in with business execs or some C-level corps. I'm just a guy out here in Polk County.
Yeah.
That's like, hey, that might be interesting to see. And I'm also the kind of person that wants to not make the world a better place, cliche, but just like see the best version that it could be, if that makes sense. I get so mad at these like truck companies that, charge $85,000 for a vehicle, but they don't even improve on it. Like I have a GMC 2018 Denali, 1500, but they've had the same style of radio, like the same look for 10 years. I'm like,
change it.
I'm like, yeah, I love the outside of the truck. I love the look. If my transmission didn't go out on my other truck, I'd probably still be driving that. But I love the truck. But I'm like, when do you take the time to improve? Like, you got to keep moving. I forgot what your question was. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, I feel like you pretty much answered it. Basically, like just leaving your legacy. What do you want people to remember you by?
Yeah, okay. A legacy, I would say, is more about character than anything else. The businesses that I own, the business that I run, how much money I make, don't matter. It really doesn't. It's about leaving a good character behind. Someone that's loved by many, respected. If I can share wisdom and insight to others and see them, grow, that would be what I would want to leave behind.
Definitely. And I want to add to one point just to kind of close it out. When you said cliche, like how you want to change the world or like fix the world in a way or make the world a better place.
Right.
It's funny you say that because like that's literally in my mindset like all the time. And I said like I feel like I had the passion to be able to change the world, and that's my goal, is to be able to change the world. Now, if I ever obtain that goal, fantastic. I hope I change it for the better, not the worst. But if you set those boundaries there, I feel like you can, even if you come up short, you'll be able to accomplish so much more than anybody else has ever done because you have those boundaries. And I feel like we're, with this podcast, we are trying to change the world. We're trying to put out ideas. We're trying to get everyone's story and try to get everybody on the same page. I don't necessarily want to sound like, oh, it's all love, guys, but but if you just sit down and have a conversation, and you don't have to agree with somebody, you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a conservative, you can just be a person.
Yep.
And so you can sit down and we can have these conversations, and I can hear out your side and you can hear out my side, and we don't have to yell into the mic, we don't have to get pissed off. We could just, hey, I may not even think this, but what about this idea? And if we all come together and just be able to sit down and throw some ideas out, we all might come to the conclusion that we think very similar. We just come from all different walks of life. And so I feel like this is kind of what we're trying to accomplish. And, us three guys moving forward, whether you're on the camera or behind the mic or on the computer or whatever, I'm super excited for how we're moving forward. And I feel like, we're all on the same page, and hopefully one day we can change the world and be able to make this place a better place. And I've loved this episode. I'm sure y'all have too. But
yeah, this episode's a reflection of exactly why we started. We're growing. Proof.
Yeah.
Proof.
You grew a lot.
We're growing. Speaking of growth, guys, please follow us. Give us a follow. Rule 1 Podcast, Instagram, Twitter. Oh, no more Twitter. Sorry. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. I think I hit them all there. Give us a like and subscribe, follow. It helps us boost in the algorithms, keeps us growing. Maverick, we're so glad that you're a part of the team moving forward, partner. It's only going to, make us more professional, as you couldn't tell in this interview. Yeah. I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward for the studio upgrades, too, next week. Man, that's going to be
fun. Normally we shout out our guests on and try to shout out their social medias. Maverick here doesn't have social media, so
not business. I have like private ones, but nothing relating to anything that I'd need. I try to limit social media, really.
That's good though.
Yeah,
that's really good. But if y'all need to get in contact with him, just DM the Rule 1 page
or email,
because he's, I'm sure, going to have the information for that too, and so he'll be able to respond and be like, "Hey, Mav, I got a question for you." And so you can get in contact with him that way.
Send me an email.
Right,
so,
guys.
Well, I appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.